happening? All right. Let's have tea with D. I don't actually have a tea.
I
Cheers.
don't either. We'll just kind of do the water bottle thing, right?
Or like fist pump because I don't even have my water on me. Like, what the heck? Anyways, Lissa, you are one of my favorite humans, and I'm super excited to
Oh.
talk about order with
Hmm.
you because you are like the get in order queen.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it's interesting. I think some people, they're naturally that way. And some people think like, oh my gosh, I'm the most disorganized person in the world. And yet we all need order, right?
Yes.
Because if we don't create order, our life is going to be chaos.
Yes.
And one of the things I like to talk about is, if you don't design your life, you are choosing a life by default. And that's what happens when we don't create order in all kinds of different areas of our life, whether it's with our stuff, whether it's with our schedules, whether it's with our screens and all the things that are coming in through that, whether it's just even order in our head, then we're just leaving things to chance. And I don't know about you, but those are usually not the results that I'm going for.
No, no. And even like it's that creating space, right?
Mm.
So I like when I talk to people, it's like they're like, I want to see these results in my business, in my health, in my bank account, in my relationships. And then it's like, well, what are you willing to give up in order to get those things? Like what are you willing to get out of your energy field? Right? Because everything is energy. Our
Yeah.
stuff is energy. So we have physical stuff, but then like you just said, we have all this like mental stuff. And
Right.
something has to go for you to like make room, right? So like I have these socks in my hand. I can't I can't pick up anything else. And because I'm full,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So it's like if I'm full, how am I supposed to take on and want to see results in all of these different things when I'm not willing to give up anything?
And
Right?
here's
So
the thing. I think we underestimate the amount of time, money, energy, focus that we give away to less important things. It feels like a little thing. Like it feels like, oh, it's just 5 minutes here, or it's just 2 minutes here, oh, it's just whatever. But all of those things add up. And they even say, I find this really interesting. For example, like with screens, just having your phone in the room, even if it's not on you, even if it's just like on the other side of the room and you've got it like turned over, there is a thing that happens in your brain that you are distracted by the fact that it is in the same room as you are. And
right?
most of us are not even disciplined enough to create that kind of order to put the phone somewhere that we can't, it's not within reach. Usually it's like right next to us, flashing at us all day long. And so, yeah, then we feel like I don't have time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said, and I talk to women who say, I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have the energy for this. I don't have any bandwidth. I can't do one more thing. And I think you're right. We're holding on to all these things in our life
Yeah.
that aren't serving us. And then we want to do something bigger, and we have to be willing to create that space.
That's exactly it. So it's like, where do you start with creating space? Like, that's my number one question that I get. So, like, okay, I get it. I can't take on anything else until I create some order, until I create like if everything's chaos and
Mhm.
you're already too busy, what are you too busy doing?
Mm.
Right? So like I always like to say to people like, look, if you want to know what your true bandwidth is, like the proof is in the pudding. Like go to the documentation, like go to your calendar in the last year and look at where you've been spending your time. Go to
Right.
your bank account and look at where you've been spending your money. Go to like just even document in a day how many times you go and you pick up your phone and you get stuck in the scroll hole. Like at least our phones, they like tell us. I love that feature
Right.
and it's like such a win when Apple will send me a little like bloop bloop at on Sundays, and it's like you are down you know an hour from last week, and I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So get this. Here's the most recent statistic I've seen. The average person interacts with their phone 2,617 times a day.
That's
Who
crazy.
has time for anything else? And that's average, which means that some people are way less than that, but it's still, even if you're half of that, what if it was 1,000 times a day, right? Or even 500 times a day? Like, do you really think about all of that. And then knowing that whenever you figure averages, there are people who are 4,000 times a day, right?
Yep.
And that's crazy. And they say for every time that you get distracted, you turn your attention to something else, it takes a full 20 minutes for your focus to come back to what it was that you were doing before.
Yep.
Because we think, oh, no big deal, I'm just going to check this, oh, whatever. And yeah, you might be back there and think you're back there, but you're not fully back there.
No.
And so you're wasting a lot of time and energy.
100%. Well, and you're multitasking,
Mhm.
right? So you think, well, I did all the things today. I still got my list done, and I was on my phone for 1,000 hours. And it's like, yeah, but your things on your list, did you really get them done like
Mhm.
well when you
Mhm.
were trying to text and post that picture and scroll and whatever at the same time? Like, did you
Right.
do it well?
Right, right. And I love what you said earlier about it's intentionally creating space.
Yep.
So there's a difference between simplifying and organizing, right? Creating space, I see as simplifying. Organizing is I'm just moving my stuff around and making it look prettier, right? So I'm going to find a cool basket or a file or some little container or tub, and it makes me feel good because I feel like I've created order. And in some ways, yes, it's better than it just being thrown on the floor or a mess on the shelf or whatever it is. But you haven't really changed anything. You've just contained the things that you have. And so the process of creating order and simplifying is really going through and removing the excess, like removing the things that intentionally removing them from your life, from your home, from your schedule, from your mind that are not moving you in the direction that you want to go. And maybe it's just for a time, maybe you have a focus on a certain goal that you have in front of you. And so, Netflix is something that you're going to put down for a time because you want to give that time and attention to whatever it is that you want to see grow. Or maybe it's at something, it could be physical clutter in your house that, once that gets donated, unless you are willing to drive back to Goodwill and pay your money to buy back your stuff, it's not coming back.
No.
But there's like this feeling, right? When you start creating that space.
So much power in it. So like right now, we literally just got rid of everything so that we can make this move to Barbados. So if it didn't fit in a 10 by 10 storage unit, which it was basically just like sentimental stuff, some Christmas stuff, is in a few pieces of furniture, not really though, and some winter clothes because I need that in Canada and I don't need that in Barbados. So it's
Right.
like that's what's in the storage unit. We have like maybe 4 barrels, like these big barrels that are getting shipped to Barbados of stuff that we use every single day. Everything else, and like picture everything in your house. I went, like, I went, I had to go through everything because our house sold, right?
Yeah.
And I either gave it away or I donated it or someone bought it, but like it was gone. And I always thought that I lived simply. Like
Mm.
I thought I would have called myself a minimalist. Like I didn't have stuff like shoved, in the back of closets. And I kept saying, oh, it's not going to be that hard to pack up. It's not going to be, but you still have so much stuff.
Right.
So much
Right.
stuff. Like we had, I was keeping things just in case. Like how many things are you keeping just in case?
Yeah. Yeah. The average home has 300,000 items in it. Right? Like that's a lot of stuff. And I love the fact, so not everybody's going to be in your position, but you just had a really cool opportunity that you physically had to touch everything. And that's one of the recommendations they make is don't just do like a scan of things in your life and go, oh yeah, that's good. Oh, okay, whatever. Like physically touch it so that you're forced to think about, am I putting this back on this shelf because this is adding value and this is helping create order and this is helping me move where I want to go? Or is this, even if it's a neutral, like if it's not something that's really serving you, let it serve somebody else. There's somebody else that it is going to, be helping them to move in a positive direction. But yeah, physically touching those things. So that's a gift that you got to go through that.
Yes.
Most
And I
people.
did it as even down to the last day when I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get this right. It was like, no, we're gonna just like I was truly grateful for the experience because it felt incredible, incredible to get rid of the stuff. And it was so interesting because at the same time, I remember 15 years ago buying my very first home and not having anything. Like
Mhm.
it was like all of our parents' old stuff because we didn't have anything. Right.
Right.
Well, now over the last 15 years, we accumulated so much. And although everything I love order. I love order. So everything has a spot. Like I could tell you exactly where a pen is in my house. Like I was like everything has a spot. However, too much stuff.
Mhm.
Like too much stuff and it was everywhere. Can you think of a time in your life, Lissa, when you like truly had like created order and then what did you see in your life happen after that?
Yeah. Um, there's so many different ways that we can create order. I think for me, because it can happen in our stuff, for me, it's happening in my schedule, right? Because we can fill our days with all these things and some of them being good things, especially, as women and moms who have all these people that we want to take care of.
Yep.
And yet I can't tell you, like, I mean, even up until not that long ago, like my daughter would be like, hey, let's go do this. I'm like, okay, yeah, as soon as I take care of this, right? But you know what happens? It ends up turning into, it takes way longer than you thought. And then it's dinner time and you're like, oh, sorry, honey. Like, I guess we just got these paddle boards. So, so much for going paddle boarding today. Maybe we can do it tomorrow, but like, and then it's just going, really? And what did I just give all of my time and attention to? And did that really matter? Or would it have better served me to have spent that time with my daughter
Right.
and to have cleared out that space in my calendar to be able to do that? So I think we miss out on a lot of things. And sometimes we don't realize it, but sometimes we do. One of my friends, she just shared this story at a conference that I was at, and she spoke at, and she came home from work one day, and she saw these tally marks on her daughter's board. I guess they had painted chalkboard paint on the door. She saw these tally marks, and she's like, "Huh, I wonder what it is." But her daughter was asleep. So, and then the next morning she went to work before her daughter was up, and so the next day she came home, wanted to ask her, but her daughter was asleep. But she noticed there was another tally mark, and she was like, "Huh, that's really interesting." And so then like the third day, like she got home early enough that her daughter was still up and she's like, what are those tally marks? And her daughter was like, those are the nights that you weren't here to tuck me in bed. And like, just as a mom, you hear that story and you're like, and that's when she just like shifted, right? Like her kids were little, mine, is older, but still like, do I really want to trade my time and energy for stuff that doesn't matter in the end for this, that I could have spent with the people that I really love?
Right.
So yeah, so for me, it's been more of in a time place of just, yeah, don't let your time get away from you because you're going to miss out on what
And
really matters.
what have you now created space for in your through doing that, through creating order in your schedule?
Yeah. Well, so I've got a business and so I'm creating space for that and what that looks like. But more importantly, I think the hard thing is, especially when you own your own business, it's easy for those lines to get blurred because you're not going into an office, you're not necessarily shutting a door because for many of us, it's right in our home that we're doing those things. So as I'm creating space, it's really for, yes, this is the time I work in my business, but then I'm shutting that down and because I'm intentionally creating space to be with my family and to spend that time with them or to serve at church and to do things in our community and things like that. So it's really creating space for the people that matter most because what's the point if we're making money and doing all this stuff, but we don't get to enjoy the people that we really want?
Right. So, so you have your business, you've compartmentalized your life, right? Which is very orderly in itself, right? So you're like, these are the things that matter in my life, and this is what I'm pouring into, right?
Mhm.
Um, so now when you look at your schedule, how do you decide what gets in and
Mm.
what is how do you make that decision?
Well, it comes down to knowing like what's my purpose and what is my vision, like what's that bigger plan, because I think that's what can happen. And especially I think for women too, everybody else's expectations come at us, right? Their requests, the things that they need and that they want, and so we feel this obligation to say yes to all those things because we can or we think that we should. One of my favorite books is called The Best Yes by a gal named Lisa Turkhurst. And it's kind of the same thing as like, if it's not a hell yes, then it's not a yes. Because when we give like these little mini, half-assed yeses to people, nobody's really getting much of us, and we start getting resentful, and then our time is scattered, and our energy is scattered, and then we're not making progress towards things. So then we don't feel good about, ourselves and that obligation that we have. So really it's going, okay, how does this fit into where I'm going? Does this fit in right now? And there are times when it's never going to fit. And so just being willing to say, yeah, this is just not something that is in my wheelhouse, or not something that's in alignment with my purpose and my vision. And sometimes it's a season, right? Sometimes because like right now, our daughter's home for the summer and then she's going off to college. So life is going to look very different in a couple of months when she's not here. So there may be some things I say no to now, but I'm going to have that space for it in another season when she's not, at home anymore. So it's kind of knowing also too, like, what season am I in and where's my focus right now? Yeah.
Love that. And I love that you even, um, it's ultimately deciding, where am I going,
Mm-hmm.
and how does she, what kind of order does she have in her life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when this is what her business looks like, this is what her relationships look like, this is what her health looks like, right? So like, do we have order around our health and like the meat stick that we live in, right? And it's like, but if this is what I know, who she is, I know everything about her, right? Then it becomes very easy, I find, that when stuff starts coming at me from all directions, and it's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And it's like, I'm just batting them. And it's easy because either she entertains it or she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if I keep entertaining the things that I've always entertained, creating order in the way that I've always created it, then nothing's going to change in my life.
Right. And she is going to get buried under all your stuff and under your schedule and under all the things. Right. And then you're going to have to go through that process of like, clearing the clutter so you can find her again.
Yeah.
Instead of just not adding it in. So recently I went on a trip, and my suitcase was, okay, but we got to the hotel and I was meeting up with a gal that had flew in from a different city, and she opens her suitcase and I just looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, like, it's beautiful, like how it's packed in there. And she's like, this thing's like a clown car. And it was amazing. Like she kept pulling things out of there. I'm like, how do you fit all that in there? Well, because she had those little like packing cubes, right? So she had intentionally thought about where she was going and what she needed. How many times do you just throw stuff in your suitcase? You're like, just in case I need this, maybe, and you throw all that stuff in. And then she had them compartmentalized by what categories they were so that they all fit in, together. And so she didn't have anything extra she didn't need. And she had it so well, she had each of those. I'm like, these are like your time blocks in our schedule, right? Like, this is what my mind is thinking, like, yes, this is creating order. And then it just felt good. I was like, teach me how to pack a suitcase like that. So actually my packing cubes just arrived a few minutes ago. So I'm excited to break them out and try that. But yeah, like knowing what things do I need for this goal, for this journey, for this destination that I'm going to. And then, okay, now how do I create that? And how does this fit alongside other things in my life? And, and then it's not so heavy, she's not lugging this big suitcase around the airport, but it's just what you need.
I'm going like, teach me your ways. This sounds packing cubes. What?
I know. Well, you'll have to watch. I'm going to start trying it. So we'll see how it works. I don't know if I can we're going to Europe this summer for 2.5 weeks. I don't know if I can live out of a carry-on size. I might have to bring a little bit bigger because I'm intending to bring some stuff back. So, but yeah, just being able to, really just focus on what you need. And it's like, it's so much more freeing. Like as I've cleared out stuff out of my closets and drawers and bookshelves and things like that, it's just like, you feel like you can just breathe. And
I can honestly say too, like so I mentioned we have stuff in like a 10 by 10 storage unit, and then we have these barrels. Everything I touched in, like Lissa, I had a massive kitchen, tons of cupboards, an island full of storage, and everything was full. Okay. But in order, right? I had all of the platters here and all, like I could tell you where everything was. However, platters, good example. I had 10 platters.
When was the last time you needed 10 at once, right?
Never. I choose 2 all the time. And as I was touching everything and it was either going to donate, garbage, sell, whatever, I said, does to live with her goal achieved, use this platter? Yes or no?
Right.
And I honestly, I ended up keeping two. One of them was the one I use all the time, but there was this other one that was like in the back that I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And it was a very opulent platter. So I'm like, oh, delayed goal achieved, totally uses
This
this.
fits in with the Lynn for sure.
Out of my whole cupboard, I kept two totes of kitchen stuff. That's it. Two
Wow.
totes. That's it of kitchen stuff. And I'm going like, I had cupboards and cupboards and cupboards filled, and I'm keeping two. And so this is where I would encourage everybody to, like, when you're creating order, I like that. I like what you said, touch everything, but keep it not from your current level of awareness,
Mhm.
but from where you're going.
Mhm.
Because
Exactly.
what's the point? Like, there were things like that was mine and Dave's third house that we had together. And I said to him, why did we bring this from house to house to house? Like, why did we? That's crazy, right? So
Right.
this is where, um you know, touch everything and then ask yourself from your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
when you've got that why,
yeah,
like it is a process. Sometimes there are emotional ties to things, you
yep,
know, or to things that we're attached to in our schedules and that type of thing as well. But when you know, like, you know, by me letting go of this is going to help me better live, you know, reach
yes,
this goal that I have. It makes that process so much easier.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. This has been such a juicy conversation. I feel like we could probably just talk about it forever. But the key behind it is to create order in your space. Don't just go through everything.
Mhm.
To also consider like what does tech time look like for you? Create order
Mhm.
in that. Protect your schedule. Protect where your energy is going, right? So that you can take on more. But you can't just keep taking on more without getting rid of anything. That's not really the way it works.
Right? Because we, like we always say, where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? And everything around us is crying out for our attention.
Yes.
So the less we have that's crying out for that, the more we can give it to the things that we really want to.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Lissa. I appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Glenn.
Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye.